is a promise we'll keep. I will turn my hand toward good. This is a promise. 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 I will keep.
Good morning, Cedar Lane. I'm really glad to see you all here, whether you're joining us.
Seeing and hearing everything.
Wonderful. Well, let's continue now. Thank you again. Continue now.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Hello, everybody. Good morning.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. In your sadness and in your grief, all this pain, it seems there's no release. He will hold you until the stones have silenced. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. the circle, draw the circle wide.
Alrighty, good morning, everybody. I'm Ricky Matos Hernandez, or Enrique Matos Hernandez. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm really glad to be serving as your worship associate today. To give a visual description, I am a teenage Hispanic male. I have glasses on my head, blonde hair, bunch of facial piercings, and I have my green leaf shirt on. And I'm sitting in my dining room with the window behind me. In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, lighting the chalice is one of the ways we remind ourselves that we're part of something bigger, that even when we're in different places, we're connected. As I light the chalice here in my dining room, if you're joining us on Zoom or on YouTube, feel free to share in the chat where you're lighting yours. This is my chalice today. And now, wherever you are, I invite you to join me in the words of our chalice lighting. We light this chalice because we believe in the promise of social change through our connections with one another. When systems fail, we keep building. When hearts break, we keep loving. We take action rooted in solidarity, resistance, and hope, infused with joy, passion, affirmation, and healing. We know something better is blooming, growing, and emerging. We kindle this flame to be part of that momentum, that stream, that journey together. I want to offer a very warm welcome to Deepa Iyer, who was with us this morning. Deepa is a longtime organizer, writer, and movement strategist whose work has helped us, many of us, think more deeply about care, solidarity, and what it means to show up for one another in hard times. Deepa, we're really glad to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Ricky, and welcome, Deepa. It's wonderful to have you here with us at Cedar Lane. We were really hoping to have you in person, but here we go. Friends, Deepa lives right here in Maryland and has been involved in movements for social justice for over 20 years. She works with the Building Movement Project, a national organization that supports social change work across the country. And her work focuses on solidarity and the stories that help movements grow and stay connected. Deepa is the author of books, including We Too Sing America and Social Change Now, which is this year's UUA Common Read, and you'll hear more about it later. And We Are the Builders, which we will hear shortly. Deepa is also serving this year as a visiting practitioner at Georgetown Center for Public and Nonprofit Leadership. I am honored and privileged to call Deepa my friend and learned a lot from her work over the years. And we are chuffed you're here with us today.
Thank you so much, Abhi, and it is always a pleasure to be in the UUA community and the Cedar Lane community. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Abhi, should I go ahead and share my screen and get going? Okay. So just for folks, for a visual description, I'm an Indian American woman in my early 50s. I am wearing a yellow sweater and a yellow and red scarf. I have shoulder length black hair. And I'm so glad to again be here with you. Abhi had asked me to start by sharing a children's book that I've written called We Are the Builders. This is for everyone here, not just young people. I think everyone can use a children's book. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Give me a moment to share my screen.
Deepa, you're on mute.
Aha, thank you for letting me know. Let's try that again. Okay, should be okay now. So my book is called We Are the Builders. It's illustrated by Romina Galota, and it is a book about community and connections. And as I read this book, I invite you to respond by using one of the reaction buttons that you have on your Zoom, and you'll see when to do that. It'll be after I ask a question. Welcome to our Community Day. Ready to find your role to play? My name is Ramla. I'm your guide. Follow me and stay by my side. So many grown-ups and kids are here. Everyone wants to volunteer. There's plenty to do in our own town. Help new friends and plant trees in the ground. The time is now. Let's all play a part. Listen and learn what moves your heart. We are the builders. We form and forge, construct and fix. We improve homes with nails and bricks. See those old desks, tables, and chairs? They're good as new with some repairs. Who here wants to join the builders? And if that is you, please feel free to use the heart button or the thumbs up button so we have a sense of who we are and what roles we play in this community right here. We are the caregivers. We comfort, console, soothe, and cheer. Care kits for all near and dear. Acts of service and words that mend. How can I help you, my new friend? Who here wants to join the caregivers? We are the frontline responders. We plan and protect. We stay prepared. A storm is brewing, but don't be scared. Stock cans of soup, bags of fresh fruits, gather warm coats, gloves, and boots. Who here wants to join the frontline responders? We are the disruptors. We declare, demand, and demonstrate. We call for change. Don't hesitate. Raise our voices, banners, and beats, meet and march out in the streets. Who here wants to join the disruptors? We are the experimenters. We scan, invent, and improvise. We solve hard problems with fresh eyes. What if these used bottles and rags could become backpacks and bags? Who here wants to join the experimenters? We are the visionaries. We dream, imagine, and inspire a world we can all admire. Fresh air, clean water, safe and free, bright futures, that is what we see. Who here wants to join the visionaries? We are the weavers. We stitch, we braid, we intertwine. Common threads link our hearts and minds. When people fight or disagree, find what connects you and me. Who here wants to join the weavers? We are the healers. We renew, restore, and relieve. We tend to those who cry and grieve. Sometimes, when our world is too much, we nurture with breath and touch. Who wants to join the healers? We're the storytellers. We sing, we dance, we create art. We bring joy and love heart to heart. Vibrant murals preserve our past. Our histories are cherished at last. Who wants to join the storytellers? Of the different roles to play, which one feels like you today? You could become a guide like me, show new friends what they can be. We mentor, we advise, and we steer. We share our wisdom, honest and clear. Now that it's clear what we can each do, we want to hear from all of you. What role would you choose? Who would you be? And how will you change your community? So that is We Are the Builders, and it is a book that's premised on the social change ecosystem map that I've developed and been sharing for a number of years. And I wrote it because I really do believe that young children very quickly understand and identify the roles that they can play to support their communities. And I know that we'll be talking about this more as well. So I'm going to pause here and turn it back over to Abhi.
Thank you, Deepa. What a wonderful story and way in which you have woven together the many ways we can show up and be connected and work together. And now let us bring our voices and our hearts together to sing, and you may rise or stay seated or lay prone wherever you are to sing For All That Is Our Life. The words will be on screen.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build a common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build a common good and make our own days glad.
Beautiful. Thank you, our Cedar Lane choir. That piece was recorded during COVID and brings back wonderful memories. Before we move into our announcements, I want to take a moment of remembrance. Today's flowers are lovingly offered in honor to honor the life of Wanda Van Gore, a longtime member of Cedar Lane. January 26, tomorrow, would have been her 99th birthday, and her children invite all of us to celebrate her life in whatever way feels most meaningful to you. And thank you, Cindy Meredith, for that beautiful flower arrangement. At Cedar Lane, announcements are not just updates, they are invitations to connect, to belong, and to live out our values in real ways. Here are a few opportunities that are coming up in the next few weeks. First, explore Cedar Lane. If you are curious about Cedar Lane, you've been thinking about membership or just wanting to learn more, please join us next Sunday, February 1st from noon to 1 in the Chalice House. You'll get a chance to meet some of the ministers, the staff, and lay leaders, learn what membership means at Cedar Lane, and connect with others over snacks. We are a food-based religion. Newcomers and new members are especially welcome to this gathering. There's a link for you to register if you are able to come. Next, our UUA common read, which I had mentioned earlier, Social Change Now by Deepa Iyer. We will be gathering on Zoom on Thursday evenings, February 5th, 12th, and the 19th from 7:30 to 9 p.m. These conversations will offer space to reflect on the roles that Deepa shared in her book on social change and to share stories, learn, and recommit together. Another opportunity coming up is our letter writing with Casa de Paz. Cedar Lane is partnering with Casa de Paz to write letters to people in immigrant detention. These are simple messages of connection and encouragement to people who are facing serious challenges and difficulties in this moment. There'll be a short Zoom training on February 3rd if you'd like to participate. And then a call to all the artists at Cedar Lane. The Visual Arts Ministry team is calling for submissions. They are organizing the first member art show featuring original framed work by Cedar Lane members and friends. Submissions are due February 8th. Details are on our website. Please check it out and send it in. We also invite you to a fire pit gathering right in the middle of winter on Friday, February 6th from 6 to 9 p.m. All ages are welcome. Dress warmly, bring a chair, dinner, or snacks if you'd like, and it will be an easy evening of being together. There's also a snow or rain date of March 6th. And finally, Saturday, February 21st, put that on your calendar from 7 to 9 p.m. Join us for a youth group variety show to help raise funds for the youth trip to Selma, which is happening later in March. Middle and high school youth are invited to participate. Music, singing, dancing, art, and any talents you'd like to share. The performer's call time is 5:30 that evening. And, oh, I forgot, please also save the date for an outstanding Kiplinger lecture happening on Sunday, March 8th at 3 p.m. It'll be an incredible opportunity to hear more from, where's the drum roll? It will be focused on Does Ethics Still Matter in Government, and will be delivered by Sylvia Matthews Burwell. More to come. All right. And now I invite us to join Ricky as he leads us in sharing our joys and sorrows. Ricky?
Thank you, Reverend Abhi. As we move into this quiet time together, I invite you to pause for a moment. Take a slow breath in and let it out. Notice where you are, and notice that even on screens, we're a part of a circle of care. This is a time to make room for all of it. The good things that bring us joy, the hard things we're carrying, and the questions that don't have easy answers. Whatever you're bringing with you this morning, you don't have to set it aside. You're welcome to be here just as you are. In our Cedar Lane community, we rejoice with Carol Rajentine, who is thrilled to be the great-grandma to Riley Philip Repepi on January 21st. We're holding close those living with grief and uncertainty, federal workers facing job loss, immigrants seeking safety, our trans and non-binary community, women and people of color facing injustice, and those living with illness or disability. We mourn the killing of Alex Preddy by ICE agents in Minneapolis yesterday, and we hold his loved ones and the people of Minneapolis and Minnesota as they grieve, resist, and protect one another in the face of state violence. We also hold all lives who are torn by war, occupation, violence, displacement, and climate crisis. And we pray for justice, healing, and a peace that does not look away. Now, if you're comfortable, you're welcome to share the names you are holding in the chat. Let's take a moment together, holding these names in stillness and in care. You are invited to share the names of the loved ones that you are holding in remembrance or in care in the chat.
I invite us now to continue in this space of shared silence. And wherever you are, bring some attention to your breath. Breathing in, aware of breathing in. Breathing out, aware of breathing out. Breathing in, noticing the body. Breathing out, letting the body breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathing in, aware that you're here. Breathing out, aware that we are here together. Across many rooms and many lives, breath is rising and falling. Joys are present, sorrows are present. And from this place, let us pray. Nameless one of many names, and one radical, abundant love. The peace we long for feels distant today. We are shaken once again by what has happened in Minneapolis, by the killing of Alex Pretty by ICE agents yesterday, coming so soon after the killing of Renee Nicole Good. Lives taken in the streets of a city already carrying so much grief. We mourn these deaths. We hold their loved ones in our hearts, knowing that no words can make sense of this loss. We hold the people of Minneapolis, neighbors living with fear, communities showing up for one another anyway, clergy and spiritual leaders offering care amid trauma, organizers and elders, parents and children all doing what they can to keep one another safe. O Holy One, we bring before you what is unfolding: power without accountability, fear pressed into daily life, communities under siege. And even here, O Spirit, we give thanks. We give thanks for the stubborn power of ordinary people, for courage that shows up anyway, for bodies standing together, for care passed hand to hand. We give thanks for wisdom handed down from our ancestors, teaching us to fear oppression less and trust the strength we carry together. We give thanks for a faith rooted in love of neighbor, a love that does not turn away, that answers harm with presence and chooses one another without hesitation. We ask for an end to this harm. We ask for truth-telling and accountability. We ask for justice for the lives lost and for all whose lives are endangered. Today, we mourn the loss of life, the erosion of safety and dignity, the fear that has settled into our neighborhoods that should know peace. And still, we refuse to give grief the final word. May our grief deepen our resolve. May our anger be shaped into action. May our faith grow into courage. Give us the strength to see clearly and to speak truthfully. Give us the courage to stand with those most vulnerable. Teach us how to love our neighbors, not just in words, but in practice. Set things right among us. We close with words from an ancient prayer of shared life and peace. Om Sangachatvam Samvadhadvam Samvamanam Sijanatam. May we move together. May we speak together. May our hearts learn to listen to one another. Deva bhagam yadha purve samyana upasate. As those before us shared in sacred purpose, may we too learn how to live and work together. Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karvavahai. May we be protected together. May we be nourished together. May we work with strength and courage. Tejasvinamaditamasttu ma vidvishavahai. May our learning be luminous. May we not turn against one another. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. So may it be.
There is a love holding me. There is a love holding all that I love. There is a love holding all. I rest in this love.
There is love holding us. There is love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all that we lost.
There is a love holding all that we lost. There is a love holding all that we lost. There is a love holding all. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we lost. There is a love holding all that we lost. We rest in this holding all. We rest in this love. We rest in this love.
Beautiful. Thank you, members of the quartet. for that beautiful offering. Each week, this congregation is sustained by all of us, by our presence, our care, and our generosity. And the offering we give and receive each week is never just about money. It is one of the ways we practice our faith and decide who we are going to be in the world. Earlier this week, Reverend Dana and I were in Minneapolis answering a call that went out to clergy and faith leaders across the country for a day of truth and freedom. We were deeply grateful, honored, and humbled to stand with colleagues in ministry and with so many others who showed up to Minneapolis in solidarity. The call was clear that this moment demands that we bear witness to what is being tested, to learn from how communities are responding, and to help carry that weight together. Organizers named Minneapolis as being at the center of a crisis that is long in the making, a crisis of federal overreach and oppression, militarized enforcement, and the erosion of civil liberties. And so they called people of faith to show up, not as spectators or saviors, but as witnesses. And we did. And what we witnessed was sobering. Thousands of ICE agents on the ground, families afraid to leave their homes, the schools, hospitals, and workplaces under siege, under watch. And yet, what we encountered was not despair or fear. We saw clergy and community members marching shoulder to shoulder in sub-zero cold, singing, praying, sharing food, offering Somali tea, passing out hand warmers and toe warmers, refusing silence. We saw a faith that understands prayer as more than words, a faith as a faith that knows love has to be public if it is going to be real. A faith that Frederick Douglass once called to call us to pray with our feet. And at the Minneapolis airport, more than 100 faith leaders were arrested on Friday while peacefully protesting this violence and demanding accountability. So here's the action that flows from all this. That kind of visible courage, the marches, the chants, the witness in the streets, the nonviolent action is only possible because of quieter, steadier work that happens every day behind the scenes, that is sustained by organizations that know the community, are trusted by the community, and are already there long before a crisis makes the news and remain long after the cameras are gone. That's why today Share the Plate matters. Our partner this morning is the Minnesota Somali Community Center, an immigrant-led community-rooted organization that provides tutoring for children, workforce development, housing and financial support, addiction recovery, immigration assistance, and advocacy. Minnesota is home to the largest Somali community in the country, and that community has now been directly targeted by this surge of federal enforcement. And right now, this center is in the middle of everything, helping families who are afraid to leave their homes, helping people stay fed, stay housed, stay connected, stay human under intense pressure, providing crucial, critical support to communities that are deeply impacted. This is not charity, folks. This is solidarity. Because not everyone can go to Minneapolis, not everyone can take that risk, and that risk is not distributed equally. But what we can do is make sure the people holding their communities together are not doing it alone. So your gift today will become shelter, it becomes safety, it becomes love with a spine. So if you've been asking yourself what faith looks like in a moment like this is one answer. And if you've been wondering how to show up, this is one way. You can give online, by text, or by mail. Whatever you offer helps expand the circle and strengthen a network of care that refuses cruelty and insists on dignity. The morning's offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Stand on the rock for freedom. Stand on the rock for justice.
Stand on the rock for liberty. We must stand up on the rock.
Stand on the rock.
Stand on the rock.
Why don't you stand on the rock for liberty? We must stand up on the rock. For taking a stand against all hatred and greed, we must stand up on the rock.
And showing compassion for those in need, we all must
Stand up on the rock. For peace in all places where there's conflict and war, we must stand up on the rock.
respecting all people for who they are. We all must
Stand up on the rock. Stand on the rock.
stand on the rock for freedom. Let it ring stand.
Why don't you stand on the rock for liberty? We must stand up on the rock.
Oh, rocks don't fall on me. Oh, rocks don't fall on me. Oh, rocks don't fall on me. Rocks and mountains don't fall on me.
Stand on the
Oh,
rock.
rocks don't fall on me. Stand, stand. Oh, rocks don't fall on me. Rocks and mountains don't fall on me.
Stand on the rock. Stand on the rock. Why don't you stand on the rock for liberty? We must
Stand upon the rock.
stand on the rock. Stand on the rock. Stand on the rock.
Stand on the rock. Just stand upon the rock.
Stand on the
Stand on the rock. Stand on the rock. Just stand upon the rock.
Stand on the
Stand on the rock. Stand on the rock. Just stand upon the rock.
Stand on the rock for liberty. We must stand upon the rock.
All right, quartet, sing it. What an awesome piece from Rollo Dilworth. So before we turn to our conversation, I want to say out loud why this moment feels particularly heavy. Since the first days of this year, we have seen people being killed by ICE enforcement, not just in Minneapolis, but in other parts of the country. Alex Pretty, Renee Good, Keith Porter. And in 2025, more than 30 people have died in detention facilities. Children as young as 2 have been detained. And yesterday, as we shared in Minneapolis, Alex Pretty, who was an ICU nurse at the VA, was killed while observing federal agents, just a few blocks from where Renee Good and George Floyd were killed. The governor activated the National Guard. Thousands of people were in the streets yesterday in, again, sub-zero temperatures. Vigils happened not just in Minneapolis, but around the country. Churches opened their doors. Neighbors showed up again with food and hand warmers and care. Friends, this is not distant, something that's happening out there in Minneapolis. It's not theoretical. It is what people are living through right now. And so when things feel like this, many of us feel pulled and stretched in different directions. We feel anger, fear, urgency, exhaustion. The question is not whether we care. Most of us here care deeply. The question is how we show up in ways that don't leave people isolated or burned out, that actually help sustain life and community so that we are able to navigate this time together. Which is why I am so grateful we're having this conversation today with my dear friend, Deepa Iyer. Welcome again, Deepa.
Thank you so much.
Deepa, one of the reasons I deeply value your work is that you do not rush people toward answers. You help people slow down enough to think clearly about our relationships, about power, about responsibility, about accountability. And so, at a time when many of us are not sure when to speak, when to act, when to protect ourselves, your work gives us language for making those choices with care. So, thank you for being here. And I'm going to shut myself up and let you share.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated the reflection from the experience that you and Reverend Dana had in Minneapolis. And thank you for being there for all of us to bear witness in the ways that you both have and have done. So I'm going to share a little bit about what Reverend Abhi has talked about that some of you might be familiar with around the social change roles, and then we're going to be in conversation together. So if you will just give me a moment to bring up my deck. Okay. So I think that Reverend Abhi really laid out some of the questions that we're all struggling with right now and have been, I think, for decades. And the ways that I've been thinking about this is the reality that we are living in a fractured nation and that it has been fractured for some time. The fissures are just perhaps becoming more visible and are becoming more exposed right now for some than others. And at the same time, how we also are living in a world where we can see, as you see on this slide, these beautiful violet crocuses that are blooming in the snow. And I learned about this when I was in Alaska sometime last year, and it really stayed with me. And as we're experiencing a lot of snow, it seemed relevant to bring this up again. So some reflection questions to offer. How do we stand in the fracture and find joy in the bloom of the crocus? And how are others experiencing this space in between, those whose names we do know, as well as those whom we don't? So these are just some reflections I wanted to offer to you. And also, some invitations. Last week, we celebrated Dr. King's vision, and I know that many of us were really thinking about how Dr. King told us that we're confronted with the fierce urgency of now, and that there is such a thing as being too late. And I think that sometimes that call to action in this world, in this moment, can be quite overwhelming. And so I've been balancing that call to action with another one from Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And she said, ours is not the task of fixing the entire world at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. And that's really what leads me to talk a little bit about the social change ecosystem framework that I developed back in 2017 and that's been used by lots of different folks and institutions and networks that are all committed to, as Reverend Abhi said, of course, caring, but asking the next question, how do we care in ways that are effective, that are sustainable, and that center the most vulnerable among us? And so this is a tool that can help us clarify our values, identify our roles, and take action for our communities and causes in an effective, centered, and sustainable way. This framework is pretty self-explanatory when you look at this visual. It has 3 components to it, and I'll go through this really quickly. The first component is to think about our values, our sacred values, which are reflected in the middle circle that looks like the sun. The second aspect of this framework is in centering ourselves with those values. What are the roles that we should be playing to advance our values and advance our causes? And then finally, understanding that all of this happens in the context of connections, that we are in an ecosystem with each other, whether that's Cedar Lane, whether that is different types of digital organizations, student groups, our neighborhood mutual aid associations, that we're all connected to each other. This is an assets-based model. It focuses on our skills and our strengths and our lived experiences, and it should absolutely change with context. So depending what's happening around us, depending on what the needs of affected communities are, we want to switch our roles as needed. This framework is also one that addresses burnout and overwhelm. When we feel exhausted, our question is not, should we just leave altogether, but what roles can I switch into that can actually help me sustain the work that I need to do? And finally, this framework invites meaningful solidarity, which really starts by asking the question, what do the most affected communities, whether that's immigrants who are in need right now, or other communities who are facing repression in different ways, what are their needs and demands? And how can we as an ecosystem make sure that we are in solidarity with that? And lastly, this is a multidimensional framework, which means you can use this as an individual, you can use this as an institution like Cedar Lane to think about its roles, or you can use this as a large coalition or network with many, many different members. Some examples of how we're seeing these roles play out in Minneapolis. We're seeing frontline organizations who are coming together to form mutual aid and responding to survival needs of communities. We are seeing disruptors who are speaking out and using their privilege and platforms in order to say things that others can't because of the situations that they're in and the risks that they hold if they were to speak out. We're seeing healers holding space for community healing with grief circles and healing circles. And we're seeing weavers who are making the connections, as Reverend Abhi and Reverend Dana did, in joining clergy and community and nonprofit leaders together. So everywhere around us, we can see how different folks and different institutions are playing these roles in order to align with our shared goals. The framework is pretty simple to use. We start by defining our core values as an ecosystem or an individual. We identify where and how we want to support. Are we going to align with our neighborhood faith association or our student group? What is that ecosystem? And then what roles would benefit that ecosystem? Those are the 3 steps. And I'll close by just sharing a little bit about a new frame that I provided earlier this year as we think about our roles that can help with discernment to figure out how to choose our roles. So we can look at this as what are our target roles, the ones that we reliably play? What are our stretch roles, the ones that we can experiment with in order to meet emerging needs? And what are our safety roles, the ones that we need to come back to in order to ground ourselves again? So you can use this framework in lots of different ways for rapid response, to map your team and staff, to tell the story of your organization, and more. If you're interested, please check out my website, socialchangemap.com. So with that, I'm going to stop my share, turn it back over to Abhi for a little bit of Q&A.
Thank you, Deepa. That was a wonderful overview of what you have developed and now have shared with us. I especially loved the last piece, the one that you have just created. Regarding what is our target role, what is our stretch role, and what our safety role is. I think that provides also an additional framework for us to reflect on how we are going to be showing up in this moment. You've written a lot about how authoritarian threats show up in cultures across law, faith, economics, and daily life. Not just elections or headlines. So from where you sit, what is it that you see that feels important for communities to understand, communities like Cedar Lane to understand about this moment? Especially for people who feel that the ground has shifted and fault lines are appearing, but don't have quite the language, the words for it yet.
Yeah. I think that we're all in a process of learning together. I don't think that any of us has all the right analysis and the right words. I think that what's clear is that there are many communities in this country who are facing even more vulnerability, fear, and anxiety than ever before. This isn't new, but it has become heightened and it has become a situation where the state is involved in ways that is creating harm for so many families and children, and people of all ages, really. And I think that's what we need to center. And for many of us, I think sometimes when the pressure rises like this, we do get overwhelmed. We might become isolated. We are kind of going back and forth between disappearing or self-sacrifice. And really, the key is how can we show up that really, again, centers the needs and demands of the communities that are affected. That's where I go first when I don't know what to do. I think about, let me learn, let me read, let me talk to those who are in facing the most pain and grief right now, and also to say what do you need? I had a little part of that in my book, in my children's book. How can I help you, my new friend? That is a question that I think we can ask instead of assuming what folks need or just jumping in.
So you mean not try to play savior?
Yes. Saviorism and heroism, I think, are traits that often show up in different social movements. And what's really important is that we, even when we are overwhelmed and triggered and dysregulated, which we are, right, as we read the news, as we hear of these horrific incidences happening in Minneapolis, but also right here in our backyard, right here in Maryland. It is we want to do something, but do anything is not the answer, right? It's actually, let's do something that is grounded and clear and connected so that it can actually make a difference in the long run.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the fear people are feeling is not random, that it is coming from real changes that are happening and how the state is actively involved in nurturing and creating and making harm for families and communities. And we need to be honest about that. And when pressure increases, many of us tend to feel either overwhelmed or want to disappear or move towards self-sacrifice and burnout. So
Correct.
how do we show up in a way that's human and sustainable? How do we stay present with one another? Now, one of the ideas of yours that has really stayed with me, and especially something I took to Minneapolis and was reaffirmed, is the idea of solidarity as a way of sharing risk. so that no one person or organization is left exposed on their own. Can you talk a little bit about how and what that looks like in real life and why it matters right now?
Yes, definitely. And a lot of this comes from the work that I do at the Building Movement Project with my colleagues on solidarity practice, where we think about solidarity every day and narrate it and make it more legible for folks. And I think that there is a difference between transactional and transformative solidarity. Transactional solidarity is sort of the quick response where, we say, well, I'll do this if you do this for me. I'll show up, very quickly. And transformative solidarity is it's longer process. It means that there's a shift that happens in myself, in my relationships with others, in my understanding. Someone in the chat said that their understanding is different now, right? And potentially in the ways that policy happens as well. So we can see it in lots of levels, that transformation. But in order to do that, solidarity is a verb. It's not an outcome. It's not a destination. It's a practice and a verb, something that we have to do every single day, something that we often, get wrong. I make mistakes every day when I'm in solidarity. You learn, you apologize, you take accountability, and you course correct, right? Ways in which I think we can think about solidarity are, one, again, who are we centering and how are we listening to those who are facing the most direct and first consequences? Second, how are we making connections and drawing commonalities without saying everyone's the same, without flattening everyone's experiences? And then third, what does collaboration look like, right? Understanding that it means that we have to think about, as you said so well, redistributing risk, using our privilege and our platform to do something that actually is an intervention in the moment. And we are seeing that across the country, I think, where folks are recognizing that if I send a letter to the editor, it matters. If I document what's happening in my community and I share it with my friends network, that matters. If I ask my employer to make a statement or to create some space for people to connect, that matters. And so for faith communities, I think that this could mean convening across difference, providing physical sanctuary and emotional care, supporting frontline groups, storytelling and moral framing, all of which you all have done in just in the matter of the last hour, I think. These are all ways that we can show up in solidarity along those principles that I mentioned.
Thank you. I just loved how you unpacked solidarity and provided us with a framework in which we can look at it and find some entry points and ways in which we can connect. You've also named in this, how we can be showing up as a community, defending and documenting and organizing and caring, not as a checklist of things that we all do, but as different roles that we each can be playing. How do you hope communities use that as a way of thinking without turning it into additional pressure to be everywhere or do everything? One of the things you need to know about us Unitarian Universalists is we believe in no cause left behind. And we also sometimes tend to practice being all things for all people all the time. From a good place, but it's still something
Right.
we tend to find ourselves in.
Yes, yes. I think it's so well intentioned, and I think it's an incredibly important approach to life and the world. And also, as you say, that intention has to have some level of organization or anchoring, right? And I think that's where this ecosystem approach could support, where we understand that there are so many issues that are affecting our neighbors, our friends, our communities, but we also understand that there are many efforts that are supporting these issues as well. So the real question is, how can we make a difference? How can we not just be adding to the choir, but how can we make a tangible, transformative difference on one or two of these issues? And then how do we play different roles in order to do that? So that's really the question, because I think that we don't want to replicate. We don't all want to be doing the same things and replicate. We need to, so often I say to communities, like, if you have an issue that you really care about, start with a mapping of who else is doing it and working on it, right? That will let us know what they're doing, what kinds of strategies that are they using. So if it's an issue around supporting immigrant communities, the first step is to map out what are the different collectives and associations and organizations doing now. And then that will let us know what the gaps are. Then that will lead us to think about, can we fill those gaps? And if so, how do we do that? What roles do we play in order to do that? So instead of always starting with what I want to do, or am I doing enough, it's to actually look at what is already happening. Because there have been so many efforts, right, over the years, over decades, where folks are already organized and getting information. So that might be the first step, and then we ask these other additional questions after we understand the context.
Approaching solidarity as a practice, how do we stay committed and generous? What are the practices that we need to cultivate? Deborah Wolmer posted on the Zoom chat that burnout is a real issue for her, and that she needs to be focusing on doing some self-care so that creates a wellspring of strength and energy that in turn, allows us to be out in the world. So that's the spiritual work that we have to do. So the thing I wonder about is, how do we focus our energy in that way rather than turning that into another way of feeling overwhelmed or inadequate and giving into the despair that we're all feeling and holding in this moment?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think first of all, I would say that there are a couple of ways that we can address that burnout and overwhelm. I think the first thing is to accept that this is going to be par for the course for some time. Like, it's not going to magically change. So we have to, I think, accept and recognize that we will move through cycles of overwhelm, grief, hopelessness, exhaustion, and despair. I think the next practice is to acknowledge it and to make space and time to acknowledge the impact of that burnout and fatigue and despair that we feel. Because if we keep kind of trying to push it away, or if we ignore it, then, as we all know, as adults, it keeps coming back. And so really actually taking the time to acknowledge it, that we are dysregulated. Then I think a third practice is to build in some awareness. So how do we actually integrate some practices of becoming more aware of what it is that tends to burn us out, right? It could be a cumulative number of things, or it could be, for example, if you're on 30 signal chats, or if you are constantly getting a barrage of breaking news. I mean, understanding what is kind of triggering that response for us, and then creating some space to, all of us who have been doing this work for a long time, we've had to figure out the practices to create a little bit of distance. Otherwise, we're going to be in a constant state of dysregulation that isn't going to be helpful for our communities or our movement. So being aware of what is kind of triggering us. And then lastly, asking for support. We cannot do this work alone. And that's one of the reasons for that map and the different roles to say that we shouldn't be playing all those roles. One person should not be doing that. One institution should not be doing that. So asking for support, asking for partnership, those are all ways in which I think we can still be in it and also recognize that we are moving through these cycles of despair and exhaustion. And these are things that I try to do for myself and that I coach others to do as well. It's not, there's no one answer. It's always just a practice, affirming, acknowledging, and being aware and asking for support.
It's beautiful. Thank you. The image that you use, which I love, it's so evocative, is the image of solidarity as a constellation of fireflies. Some lights that are bright and some faint and some resting in the shadows, but all of them kind of signaling to one another across a dangerous landscape. Now, when you hold that image, what gives you hope about how movements and communities like this one can endure and respond in these times?
Yeah. I think that, part of that image is that we don't need like one blazing light. We need many small ones that are staying in relationship. And that we survive by signaling to each other, by resting, by reappearing, by staying aware of who's in our constellation. We recognize that at times some lights will flicker and dim, pause, and others will grow brighter. And so part of this is actually really thinking about the ecosystem around us and not centering one institution or one person, right? But really recognizing the living map around us. And I think that when I look at, that's what I do when I feel despair. All I have to do is look around. I know you all do too, and you can see immediately how people are showing up. They're documenting and doing oral histories. They're showing up outside detention centers with signs that affirm their values. So people are already doing that, I think, naturally. But I think one thing that we could continue to practice is the awareness of how our relationships with each other. That I think is we care, as you said, we're showing up in these different roles. And how can we be more aware of who's doing what and how we can support each other? That I think is probably where we need to think about going next.
For some of our young people watching, do you have anything to share with them?
Yes. I myself have a teenager and, I'm very curious about what young people are moving through right now. And with my children's book, I've been able to connect with teachers and school administrators and counselors and, of course, young children. And what I find, and I'd be curious to know what others find, is that, teenagers and young adults are very aware of the overlapping crises around them. And they are looking to us as adults to model in terms of our language, our connections, and the steps that we take. They're watching us and they're learning from us. And so I do think that we have a tremendous responsibility to model for them, even if we can't solve the crises that they have unfortunately inherited. We can show them in the ways that we talk about it, analyze it, and give them hope and strength. I think that's really vital for us as guides. And I think for young people themselves who are moving through this moment, your voice matters. The roles that you play, that you've identified matter, and you're not alone. I think that those are the messages that I would send both to us as adults and then younger people who are moving through this time with us.
Thank you, Deepa. As we bring this to a close, I just want to name a few things that I am taking with me, having heard you. The one big thing, my big takeaway is the difference between transactional solidarity and transformative solidarity, and how transformative solidarity takes time and it really changes us in how we understand and relate to one another and how we show up. And that it's not a destination, the promised land that we arrive at, that it is something we practice again and again, being on the journey together. And that we are going to mess up. And learning and repairing and course correcting are part of that work. I also heard you asking some really deep questions. Who are we centering? How are we staying connected without flattening people's experiences? How are we sharing risk and responsibility instead of concentrating it or taking it upon ourselves? And that for communities such as ourselves, it's not about doing everything, but discerning to take on some things and take on different roles and doing them well. And staying in relationship as fireflies do, staying aware of each other. And that's how this work will last. Thank you so much for helping us think our way into all this together. And friends, this is not the end of a conversation. This is just the beginning. So I hope that you will join us for the 3 Zoom sessions as we continue what we started today by delving deeper into Deepa's book and hopefully create more spaces of intentionality in how we're going to be in relationship and in work together. With that, I invite us again to rise in body or in spirit, to sing Come and Go With Me to That Land. The lyrics will be on screen.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound.
There will be singing in that land where we are bound. Before we close, I want to offer a word of deep gratitude to Khalid, Barb, Dana for making this Zoom space work. This was my crazy idea, and you made it happen, that it went so wonderfully and smoothly this morning. And thank you, Ricky, for guiding us through the service with your words, your presence. And Deepa, thank you again for your presence, your honesty, your vulnerability, and your sharing your work and your wisdom with us today. I offer these words from the Indian poet Rabindranath Tagore, which he wrote when India was under occupation in the early 20th century as part of his poem collection Gitanjali. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms toward perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by you into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, let us all go. Go in peace, go making peace, live gently, love mightily, and bow to the mystery. Stay tuned. We will join for the online coffee hour in just a moment.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be your host for the coffee hour. We're just going to give a moment to stop